I'm going to be talking about working harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because here's what we know. There's no such thing as job security. Here's what we know. The impact of the coronavirus on your ability to stay employed, the impact of the coronavirus has been devastating. Devastating. And this is a time that you have to look at you. You have to learn something new, something that you love, and something that you can get training and coaching on from someone who's experienced and trained in that area to accelerate your growth and credibility and development so that you can have something else going for you other than a job. I want to help you to do that. And for those of you who are already there and want to do what those young people do, I like what the young folks, they talk about BYOB, be your own boss. If you're ready, I want you to put voice in the comment section. Put voice in the comment section. I've been thinking about what I'm going to share with you today. And I've been tracing my tracks. People always asking me, what did you do differently than others, the thousands of other speakers out here that allowed you to become a national and an international voice of motivation and greatness? And part of the process is I decided I wanted something new for myself. I wanted something new for my family. And I wanted to be able to control my own destiny. I didn't want to be a volunteer victim. We've been conditioned, we've been trained for a job. Things have changed. You got to be an entrepreneur now. You want to create something that you can control. You want to create and have something that you determine how much you're worth, not somebody else determining that. And today you have to live life like you mean it. This is no time. Things have changed. We've got to change. We've got to change and with a fierceness, because that's what it is. That the things that are dramatic and the millions of people that are emboldened and determined to hold you down, we've got to be stronger than them and more determined than them. Everybody can use this. What I'm going to talk about today, the value of improving yourself and working on yourself. One of the deciding factors, I was working on a job and I asked in advance, could I go on vacation? I followed the guidelines. And at that time, it was like 2 to 3 weeks. I asked. And when the time came, it told me no. That's the general manager. Why? Look, I did it within the parameters of what you've laid out for me. Why are you telling me no? You know what he said? Because I can. Whoa. And if you go, you won't have a job when you get back. Now, this is why it's important to work harder on yourself than your job. Because he knew I have a family. He knew I had a car note, mortgage note. He knew I needed the money. He knew that I just couldn't go out and get a job making the kind of money that I was making there because I had not been working on a transition skill. I had not been working on developing myself. I was putting more time and more effort on the job than myself. I'm not talking to you about something that I don't know. I'm 75 years young. And so I got an attitude. And see, it's not enough to get an attitude and get upset. I put that energy into learning something new. I was like Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired, to the extent I wanted to be my BYOB, my own boss. I wanted to be my own boss. And so I decided to learn something new. You want to learn something new in this environment where millions of jobs are being lost because of the coronavirus. And over 47 million jobs are projected to be lost because of artificial intelligence. This is a new era. It's called the end of work. The end of work. Things are going to be automated. Even jobs like being a waiter or working in McDonald's. There's some across the country. There are no people in there. Banks, you can go in. You used to see a lot of people in a bank. I went into a bank the other day. There's only one person there, a long line. Why? They've been replaced through technology. Hello? Put voice in the comment section and learn how to do something that's you. John H. Johnson, who with a $500 loan from his mother, built a $4 million empire. He said something I always keep in mind. There's no defense against an excellence that meets a pressing public need. What's pressing today, Les, that I have? Do you have a story? Have you overcome some stuff? Have you made some mistakes? Have you gone through a divorce? Have you had some setbacks, some failures? And you got through it, you survived? It's a pressing public need. How you got through that becomes a survival guide for people that's struggling with that right now. That's what it is. Your story is powerful. That's why Steve Jobs said the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. And so the key to today, making it today, with all the uncertainty, what's major is to have your mind focused. Now you want to keep social distancing from people. Don't join the crazies now. This coronavirus, it does not play. You want to respect this. My grandchildren came over. Hey, Papa. They're looking upstairs. Hey, Papa, I love you. Here's a virtual hug. I love you very much. Here's a kiss on the head. No! This thing ain't playing, and we shouldn't play. And don't play with your future. You take charge of your future. Learn something new. Learn something new. And don't take forever to do it. Learn it from somebody who's accomplished and achieved what it is you want to achieve in the area that you love, that's you. Life is too short and unpredictable to spend 8 or 60 hours a week doing something that's not you just to survive. Get an attitude to say, I'm not going out like this. And that's what I did. See, you have something special. You have greatness in you. Now, let me share something with you. I was thinking about this. You know the major amount of money that corporations spend on what it takes for a corporation to grow, to impact their bottom line? You know how much money they spend? Research and development. You know how much money they spend? They spend billions of dollars on the mindset for their corporate executives. People who have privilege. People who have the complexion of connection. And I looked at that and said, hey, if they need it, and they're not victims of discrimination and racism, if they need it, what do I need? Just think about that. Stuff to help break the cycle of the mental damage that has been done and passed on generation after generation after generation and never been interrupted. Trust me on this. Work on you to improve you. And it starts with working on your mind. So when I got off from work, unlike most people who go home and start watching the television, I went down to the basement. I started listening to motivational messages. Now I have my own. I started reading 30 to 40 pages of something positive every day to retrain my thinking. That the major things I think that prevent people from living a bigger life from my own observation and including myself. Number one, habit. You get accustomed to doing certain things over and over and over again. And the other thing is distractions. And oh my God, do we have some distractions today? When you have distractions, that means that if you're not conscious, it can cost you your life. Woo! That's big. This is the time that you don't want to be around everybody. I'm talking to my computer. I make my money now virtually. Yes, I do. I talk to this green light on my computer virtually. I do my presentations virtually. And there are thousands of other people who are using their experiences and their knowledge to connect with their customers, because we've gone from brick and mortar to click and order. When you get coaching and how to master your personality and how to increase your presentation power, you control your own future. You, I don't have to fly on airplanes anymore. You, I don't have to stay in stinking germ-infected hotels anymore. You, my computer's not asymptomatic. It won't sneeze, it won't cough on me. And if it does, I'll say, God bless you. Oh, behave. You. I was willing to learn something new that allowed me to be my BYOB rather than a JOB, the journey of the broke. I can't tell you the number of people that I've trained, like Johnny Wimbury, like Stacy N.C. Grant. These are people who are making millions doing what they love to do. Help people, change people's lives, find a way to monetize their passion. You, Kevin Bracey, you, oh my goodness. There's so many. And you can become among those. Decide that you can bet on you. Invest in you. Spend more time working on you than your job, because you are the money.
I want to ask you to think about your goals and dreams in 3 areas. Number 1, what's some personal goal that you have for someone that you love? My first major goal was to buy my mother a home. That's what I wanted to do. I remember walking around these big, beautiful mansions before catching the bus going back to Liberty City and Overtown in Miami, and said, Mama, she said, what is it, Leslie? When I become a man, I'm going to buy you a big, beautiful home just like this. Let me have somebody that you like to do something for that's personal to you. Raise your hands, please. Very good. I want you to think about that. I'm going to share with you some strategies how you can make that happen. Next thing is, I want you to think about your financial freedom number. And when you reach that number, when you earn that amount of money, that you will feel a sense of relief. You take a lot of stress out of your life. It gives you more time for yourself and for your family. And what that number is, if you wrote it down or if you're thinking about it, I want you to multiply it 100 times. And the reason that I want you to do that, I have found in my own life that most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss. Most people fail in life because they have done what I did for the first part of my life. Aim too low and hit. And then I want you to think about your social contribution. I believe that we live in the greatest country in the world that allows us to live a life of contribution. Horace Mann said we should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind. One of the goals I have is to reduce the number of women who die from breast cancer. My mother was a 22-year breast cancer conqueror. One of the goals I have, every time I get on stage, I tell men that I was diagnosed 15 years ago with prostate cancer, given a 2 to 3 year prognosis. One of the things I believe doctors should never tell someone they're terminally ill. What they should say is that my ability to help you has terminated. So I encourage men to get their PSA test, which stands for prostate-specific antigen, and the digital rectal examination. And I'll be glad when they can check our prostate by looking in our ears. Can you feel it, brother? Up it here, up it here. I was at this medical convention, a friend of mine said, "Hey, Les, let me give you a free rectal." It's no, buddy, you too motivated. Homie don't roll like that, you know what I mean? I was at Florida Hospital, guy came in, new doctor, didn't say hello, good morning, anything, goes get some gloves and some petroleum jelly. I said, "Hey, buddy, this is our first date, hey. You gotta bring me some potato chips, some M&M peanuts, we got to sit down and talk. I gotta get relaxed. What's your mama name?" I can't believe I'm telling y'all this, I'm turning red, but y'all can't see it. Oh my God. One of the goals I have is to train. My gifting is in the area of helping you to discover your power voice, how to become a powerful presenter. That's what multi-level marketing does. The money's in the front of the room. The money's in 101, small groups on the telephone. Your ability to present yourself. A gentleman changed my life, Mr. Leroy Washington. He's in his 90s now. He's blind from glaucoma. I never forget the first day we met. I went in his class. He said, "Young man, go to the board and work this problem out for us." I said, "Oh, I can't do that, sir." He said, "Why not?" I said, "I'm not one of your students." He said, "Look at me." "Yes, sir. Go to the board and work the problem out anyhow." I said, "I can't do that, sir." And the other students started laughing, saying, "He's Leslie. He's DT. He's got a twin brother. His twin brother Wesley is smart. He's DT." He said, "What does DT stand for?" "He's the dumb twin." And many of the kids laughed, just like some of you did. And I said, "I am, sir." And he came from behind his desk and he looked at me. He said, "Don't you ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality." That was a turning point in my life. On one hand, I was humiliated, but on the other hand, I was liberated, because he looked at me with the eyes of Goethe, who said, "Look at a man the way that he is, he only becomes worse. But look at him as if he were what he could be, then he becomes what he should be." I want you to shake someone's hand on your right and left, and look them in the eyes and say, "You have something special." Do that right now. Ladies and gentlemen, you have something special. I don't know you, but here's what I know about you based upon my own experience. You have something special. You have greatness within you. You have the ability to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. Just the fact that you showed up, the fact that you said yes to this industry, it says a lot about you. You're uncommon, because it means that you have a sense of taking responsibility for your own life. George Bernard Shaw said the people that will make it in this life, they look around for the circumstances that they want, and if they can't find them, they create them. You have something special. You have greatness within you. You've experienced setbacks and disappointments like everybody else in the economy, but you're operating out of the thinking of one L.C. Robinson, who said things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. You have something special. For some of you, it was a struggle to get here. You couldn't afford to be here, but there's something in you that said, "I can't afford not to be here." You have something special. You are uncommon. One great American said, "I choose not to be a common man. It's my right to be uncommon if I can. I seek opportunity, not security. I don't wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having this state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to live from from hand to mouth. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the still calm of utopia. I will never cower before a master, nor bend to any threat. It's my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to face the world boldly and say, this I have done. That's what it means to be a part of multi-level marketing, an uncommon desire to live your dream and control your destiny. There's something in you. It says that you're not sitting back waiting to see what politicians will do for you. There's something in you that says, I'm not going to focus on the general economy. I'm going to focus on my personal economy. There's something in you that says the most dependable hand in the world is the one at the end of your risk. There's something in you that says always strive to get on top in life because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. You are different. You have greatness within you. Dr. Howard Thurman, come forth, is a man that, after having 238 radiation seed implants, and my PSA continued to increase. In fact, last year this time it was over 1,500, and the little C cancer had eaten 40% of my T1 vertebrae. And I was reading his words that night after leaving Florida Hospital, and doctors had told me that cancer had reappeared and metastasized in 8 areas of my body. And I began to laugh as the doctor spoke to me, and he was looking real serious. He said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "I feel like Mother Teresa." He said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Lord, I know you know how much I can bear. I wish you didn't have so much confidence in me." And now my PSA is 0.0. I'm debt-free, cancer-free. Yes, indeed. I stand before you because of God's grace and mercy. And trust me, it's better to be seen than to be viewed. But Dr. Thurman was called upon by Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. He said, "Howard, I want you to mentor my boy, MLK. He was a member of an elite group of orators and mystics and philosophers in his day. He was an advisor to Mahatma Gandhi and to Albert Schweitzer. He wrote, 'Deep is the hunger, the voice of the genuine, the centering moment.' He wrote some words that I was reading around 3 o'clock in the morning that grabbed me. He said, the ideal situation for a man or woman to die is to have family members praying with them as they cross over. He said, but imagine being on your deathbed and standing around your bed, the ghost of the dreams, the ideas, the abilities, the talents given to you by life, but you, for whatever reason, you never pursued those dreams. You never used those talents. You never used those gifts. You never used those abilities. And there they are standing around your bed looking at you with large angry eyes saying, we came to you, and only you could have given us life. And now we must die with you forever. And the question is, if you died today, what dreams, what ideas, what books, what leadership, what voice, what story will die with you? Miles Monroe, great speaker out of the Bahamas, said the wealthiest place on the planet, it's not in the Far East where there's oil in the ground. It's not in South Africa where there are diamond mines. He said the wealthiest place on the planet is there you'll find potential never realized. There you'll find books never written. There you'll find abilities and skills and talents and gifts that the world never had exposure to. Maybe that's why Henry David Thoreau asked in a moment of anguish, what if you live your whole life only to discover that it was wrong? That it was wrong. God had so much more in mind for you. Maybe that's why he said, oh God, to reach the point of death, only to realize that you've never lived only to realize that you've never scraped the surface of your potential. Everybody, let us say together, live full, die empty. And the people in this room have decided to live full. The people in this room have decided to die empty. The people in this room have decided to live life on their terms and not to be a volunteer victim. When you say yes to this industry, you're saying yes for a bigger life. You're saying yes, I'm tired of playing small. You're saying yes, I'm really ready to be empowered to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. You're saying yes to providing for yourself and your family. There's something that's in you that says, I'm not mentally fit to work for somebody for the rest of my life. You're saying yes to your life, yes to your dreams, yes to your unfolding future. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause. I didn't do this for years. I would go in the balcony of auditoriums and watch Jim Rohn and Dr. Dennis Waitley and Zig Ziglar. And my heart would beat so fast because I love helping people. How many of you love helping people? Raise your hands. I love helping people. And my heart said, I can do that. But then when I would leave there, and as I was walking to the car, my mental conditioning began to speak. And it would say, Les Brown, you can't do that. You don't have a college education. Les Brown, you can't do that. What makes you think that you have something to say that somebody would listen to you? Les Brown, you can't do that. What makes you think that you can speak for AT&T, Procter & Gamble, McDonald's Corporation, IBM? You've never worked for a major corporation. Les Brown, you can't do that. You were adopted. You don't even know who your parents are. How many of you ever thought about something you wanted to do? You felt it in your heart, and then your mind talked you out of it. Raise your hands, please. I convinced myself that I couldn't do it. I learned something from that experience. Whenever there's an argument between your heart and your mind, follow your heart. There are things that the heart can understand and feel that the mind cannot relate to. Maybe that's why my favorite book says, lean not unto thine own understanding, and all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. There are things that you feel, that you know in your heart of hearts, that's not logical, it's not practical, it's not realistic, but there's something in you that says, I can do this. I can do this. After facing defeats and disappointments and failures again and again and again, there's still something in you that says, I can do this. Operating out of a thinking when life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because when you can look up, you can get up. I can do this. I can do this. When you present and people say, oh yes, I'd like to be a part of that. Yes, they have the personality and they need it, and they don't show up. You end up being a babysitter. You have to be a counselor and a psychologist and a minister. They challenge you to pray to Jesus and Yahweh and Melchizedek and Buddha. They'll get on your last nerve, have you chanting, Nomi Yoho Renge Kyo. It's interesting when you talk to people about securing their future, and you can't help them to become actively engaged in their own life. A friend of mine named Lorraine had me to come to do an intervention with her brother that was addicted to drugs, and he told us to get out of his house. And as we were going down the steps, I said, I'm sorry I failed. I'm so disappointed. And she said something that I'll never forget. I want you to remember. She said, Les, most people won't participate in their own rescue. Wow. Most people won't participate in their own rescue. You have a vehicle, that will allow them to create their own job. You have products that people need. You have training and coaching where they'll be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. You have leadership of people who've proven that it's possible you can live your dreams. It's possible you got a shot at creating a fortune. Everybody's not going to do it. We can't predict performance. And all you are saying, hey, listen, here's an opportunity. And don't take it personal when people say no to you. They're not saying no to you. They're saying no to themselves. They're saying no to living a bigger life. They're saying no to what's going on in their head because they're suffering from possibility blindness. They can't see themselves doing more. They don't want to do that extra work. So they're saving you some time. They know they're trifling and don't want to work. Don't try and convince them to say yes. A person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. This is hard work. H-A-R-D and H-E-A-R-T. Hard work and heart work. You got to gut this out. You've got to make know your vitamin. You've got to fail your way to success. You've got to be unstoppable. You have to operate like Willie Jolly, who said a setback is a setup for a comeback. You've got to be relentless when you're building a business. You got to be able to have courage after you face rejection and again and again and again. After somebody tell you they're going to show up and then they don't come, they don't return your calls. It takes courage. Go out and start talking to people. It takes courage when creditors are breathing down your neck and family members saying, oh, there he goes again with another pyramid scheme. Am I making sense to you? What I'm doing. I didn't do this for 14 years because I didn't have the courage. I was afraid of being rejected because I don't have a college education. I had a tremendous inferiority complex. And something else. In order to make this business successful, to go from a 9 to 5 to 5 until you faint, it's a different mindset. It requires a radical change. How many of you know that it's hard building a thriving residual income on a monthly basis? Raise your hands, please. Yeah, that's why most people won't say yes. It's much easier to complain about the economy. It's much easier to complain about our elected officials. It's much easier to talk about the recession. That's much easier to come up with excuses and why you can't do it. That's where I was. That's where I set up station for a long time. My mentor said something to me, Mike Williams. I want you to write this down. He said, anybody can complain. He said, if you do what is easy, that's complaining. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. Come on now, that's strong on medicine. If you do what is easy, complain about your situation, your circumstances. If you do what is easy, stand around and be a volunteer victim like everybody else. If you do what is easy, surrender and give up on your dreams, become depressed and bitter and angry. Anybody can do that. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, keep coming back again and again and again. If you do what is hard, approaching strangers, talking to people in shopping malls, get up dressed every day, going out prospecting, knowing some way, somehow, with a spirit of expectation, somebody's out here looking for an opportunity. You can go outside right now and see some pigeons, but you're out hunting for eagles, and they're not common. And if you do that over and over and over again, somebody's going to show up. Somebody's going to say, I'm the one. Dr. Thurman, I love him so much. What a great writer. He said, there's something in each and every one of you that waits and listens to the voice of the genuine in yourself. It will be perhaps the only guide you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it, all of your life, your days will be spent on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. And I submit to you that you invested the time and money to go to the airport, to fly cross country. I suggest to you, some of you drove here. I suggest to you, you showed up because you said, I'm going to pull my own strings. I'm going to control my own life. Nobody will ever pull my strings again. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Why is personal development such an important thing for people?
Personal development is very important to people, I believe, is because of the fact that how people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. And we develop a vision of what's possible for ourselves between the ages of 0 and 6, according to various studies. And so according to your circumstances, to your culture, to your environment, that to a large extent begin to create a vision of yourself. Only 5% of people, for the most part, achieve their true greatness in life and make a real greater impact than the average person. Only 5%. Usually the percentages of those who achieve self-actualization is really between 3% to 5% of the world population. And so I believe that the more people discover the truth of who they are, that will free them up to use the power that they have to do more, to have more inventions, to create more cures for things that's impacting humanity, to reduce poverty in the world and homelessness, and give people a sense of power that they would not have as a result of working on themselves. When you work on yourself and you expand your vision of yourself, you are able to make a greater impact in life. I've traveled around the world and I've earned millions of dollars helping people to build businesses, to make a difference in their community. I used to be a state legislator. I passed 14 pieces of legislation when I was elected to the Ohio legislature. I've been a community activist. All of these is a result of the vision, the mindset transformation that took place within me. And so when I speak to people about personal development, I'm talking from a place of knowing, of achieving. And so personal development is important because what it does, it inspires people to live an achievement-driven life, as opposed to just earning enough money to take care of yourself and your family, and then you die one day. You know, Horace Mann said, we should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind. So when people develop themselves and discover the truth about who they are, they live a life of contribution.
What is success? How do you define success?
To me, success is living a life of service. It's thinking about how is it that my life can be an instrument to leave the world in better shape than how I found it. It's what is it that I can do, that I can give to others, that I bring? If it's my music, if it's my artwork, if it's my words, if it's living a life of a Mother Teresa, if it's one of a Winston Churchill, if it's a President Barack Obama, it's about making an impact with your life. To me, of being of service to humanity. That to me, doing something that's a passion of yours, that you feel in your heart. Where the heart is, there your treasure is also. That to me is living a life of success.
That's a great definition.
Thank you.
About the weekend seminar that we will have,
Yes.
what can we wait from you at the weekend seminar in Finland in autumn?
People can expect an experience that will transform how they see themselves. The people that come will never be the same again. You will discover a part of you that you don't know right now, and you will get some tools, methods, and strategies that will allow you to achieve your personal goals, your business goals, and be able to make a greater impact with your life.
Great.
Yes.
I'm attending.
All right. I am too. I'm excited to be there. I just cannot wait. It is going to be an incredible experience, and I'm going to grow from it as well. I'll be going to all the workshops and seminars because I'm still growing. I'm still developing myself.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that also. What are you waiting from us or from the event yourself?
Well, one of the things that I believe that you're never too young to teach and you're never too old to learn. I am 66, and so at this stage of my life, life is still exciting for me. Helen Keller said, life is either a daring adventure or it's boring. So I haven't done my best stuff yet. While people in my age category are retired, I'm refired. Yes.
How can people develop a hunger in themselves, and why is it so important?
I was downtown with my mother. I was around 5 years old. And my mother, she adopted altogether. She took in foster kids, 7, and I was one among the 7. Then she adopted us. I let go of her hand. It was about 95 degrees downtown Miami. And I ran up to a water fountain and I started drinking. And all of a sudden I felt her hand. She said, "Don't you ever do that again." She snatched me down. And she began to punch me in the face and the head, and just beating me fiercely like she didn't know me. I said, "Mama, it's me, Mama, it's me." And then a white policeman came over and he had a billy club and he was hitting it in his hand. He said, "Okay, you can let that little nigger boy go now. I won't have to do it." And he looked at me with my busted lip and eyes swollen and started laughing as he walked away. That'll teach you. And my mother, as she helped me up, she began to cry. I was crying because of the pain of the punches and the blows. She was crying because she beat her baby boy. I said, "Mama, why did you beat me like that?" She said, "When I saw that white policeman's face turn red, and he gripped his nightstick and he was coming towards you to hit you, I had to think fast and do something to distract him. Because had he hit you, Leslie, he would have had to kill me. And I did the best thing that I knew how. I'm so sorry, son. I'm so sorry. Mama loved you. I didn't mean to beat you like that." I said, "Mama, it didn't hurt that badly." And so, you know, doing it when you're a kid, the mothers kissed the part to make it well. I said, "Right here, I got the little knot there." She would kiss it. I said, "I got another one over here." She said, "Just shut up." I knew then I was living in a different world. I got to tell you this, I have never talked about this publicly. I worked for a guy named Joe. And Joe was really fond of me, and I admired him. And I used to do odd jobs for him. And he invited me to his house during the time. Now, mind you, I'm 75, so segregation is in the South. And this is unusual. And he invited me. He wanted me to know that he was liberal, invited me to his house to have dinner. So he introduced me to his wife. And then his son came over, and his daughter-in-law, and their little girl named Alice. And I spoke to all of them. And so Alice, she was around 5, and she came around, and I said, "Hello, Alice." She said, "Hi." And then she came around and she came behind me. And all of a sudden I felt something behind me, you know, at the bottom of the chair. She was moving a hand below my butt. I said, Alice, what are you doing? And she said, where is it? I said, where's what? Where's your tail? And I looked at Joe and his wife and his son and daughter-in-law. I said, I clipped it off. She said, why? I said, because when I sat down, it would hurt. What'd you do with it? I said, just threw it away. She said, will it grow back? I said, no. Oh, and then she was just so disappointed. She stomped to her chair and she sat down. She said, you shouldn't have cut it off. I was waiting to see it when Grandpa said that you were coming for dinner. I said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And we went on to have dinner. Eric, as we were having dinner, she continued to talk and asked me different questions about my tail. How long I had it? How long did it take it to grow? I said, it didn't take very long. I said, I had it since I was born. And I was trying to hold a conversation with a little 5-year-old, and they are about to go under the table. Their faces look red as cherries. And so when I got ready to go, she said, I'm not going to forgive you for clipping off your tail. I said, I'm sorry, Alice. Had I known you would want to see it, I would not have clipped it off. I'm so sorry. And so I said, bye, everybody, but she would not say bye to me. She just looked away like, you cut your tail off. Don't say bye to me. And so when we got in the car, Joe was driving me home, and the car was very silent. And by the time we got to my street, he started to say something, and I said, Joe, it's okay. It's okay. I said, you take care. And he drove off. And I sat down on my doorstep and I cried because I thought I knew this guy. I thought he was my friend. I had no idea that he had taught his granddaughter how to damn tail. I was so hurt, Eric. I had to collect myself before going in the house. And Mama said, Leslie, you all right? I said, no, man, Mama, what's wrong? I said, nothing. How's Joe? I said, he's doing real good. And I wouldn't tell her because I knew that would have broke her heart. And that night, I was just thinking about how, you know, signs that I'd seen on Miami Beach, Jews, dogs, and coloreds not allowed. And I remember asking my mother, why do they hate us so badly? And she said, Leslie, I don't know, but don't you ever be like them. You hear me? Don't you ever be like them. God is love. The scripture says God is love, and he who dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in love. And I made a commitment. I'm Mamie Brown's baby boy, to live a life of love. That how you feel about me, Eric, is none of my spiritual business. It's how I feel about myself that's most important. And everybody don't operate at that level of consciousness, but it created a fierceness in me. I knew there were two worlds, and it's a hunger to take care of my mother, the hunger to provide for her, the hunger to buy her a home. It gave birth to that hunger. Hearing my mother having to clap her hands when she went into another room to look for a hat for Miss Harris. Miss Harris, how you doing? Great. Mamie, do you see it? No, I don't. Mama, what is it, Leslie? Why are you clapping your hands? Don't you worry about it. You just do what you're supposed to do. Miss Harris said, clean the spots off the floor. She came out, I don't see it, Miss Harris. Go in the other room, Mamie. She went in the other room. Mama started clapping her hands again. Mama, why are you clapping your hands? Didn't I tell you, boy, to do what you're supposed to do? Miss Harris came over to me. I can tell you why she's clapping her hands. Because when I have colored people looking for something and I can't see them, I make them clap their hands to make sure they're not stealing. I dropped a washcloth, and during this time, you weren't allowed to look white people in the eyes. I looked her in the eyes and I said, my mother is not a thief. She would not steal from you or anybody. She's not a thief. Then I got back down and I started scrubbing that floor and slinging water everywhere, tears coming out of my eyes. On the way back to Overtown in Liberty City on the bus, I wasn't talking. She said, Leslie, yes ma'am, what's wrong with you? I said, I'm mad. She said, why? I want to be a man. Why? You'll be a man soon enough. I said, no, I want to be a man now. She said, why? I said, if I was a man, you would never cook for anybody but us. If I was a man, we would not have to eat food left over from the families that you cook for. If I was a man, we would not have to wear hand-me-down clothes that somebody else has worn for a year. And if I was a man, nobody will make you clap your hands because they think that you're stealing. She said, Miss Harris told you that, didn't she? I said, yes, ma'am. And I just turned and looked out the window. And she said, Leslie, it's gonna be all right, son. That gave birth, Eric, to hunger in me. That nobody would ever make my mother clap her hands again because they think that she's stealing. That my mother, one day, because of my becoming actively engaged in the fight that people are doing right now, that kids would not get the hell beat out of them because they drank from a water fountain that said for whites only. That's why I used radio to bring about social justice, and it caused me to be the person that I am. It created a hunger to create a better world. It created a hunger to live a life that will outlive me. That's why I train speakers to become messengers of hope, because when there's hope in the future, that gives you power in the present, and get people to live out of their imagination rather than their education and their indoctrination, and help them to have an expanded vision of who we are and how we can show up in life. So you asked the question, be careful what you ask for, because you just
I'm
might
glad.
get.
I mean, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. I've known you for, what, 25 years? Something
At
like
least.
that? Yeah,
Over
I've known you a
30
long
years.
time. And some of these stories I've never heard.
And my stories and my history was right. Notice I said help people live out of their imagination and not out of history. My history has never interfered with our relationship.
Right. I've never felt it. I've never felt anger. I've never felt bitterness. I've never felt division. You know, even though we're different ages, we're different colors. You know, we grew up in different circumstances.
I never would have known that if you hadn't told me we're salt and pepper and I'm sorry.
Right? So tell me what you think. I want to ask two different questions. One question is one about what people can do to ignite the hunger in themselves to make themselves a better person. But first, what do you think needs to happen for the human race to come together and for racism to fade, to be a smaller part of our world? What needs to happen?
As I said in the beginning, cities, society, countries are created by people. And they can and they will be changed by people. The secret is to maintain commitment through all the frustrations, through all the disappointments, through all the setbacks, with all the resistance that we will encounter in attempting to change the way that we function as a society. Slavery existed in this country for over 300 years. We in this country had laws that said a black man has no rights in which a white man has respect. We in this country said a black person is 3/4 human. White people used to use children, black children, as bait to catch alligators in Florida. When you don't recognize a person's humanity, you can do anything to them. Like keep your knee on their neck for over 8 minutes with your hand in your pocket, and 3 buddies watch, and the world watch, and the camera's on you saying, come on, he can't read, stop. When you can do that, that says a lot about the mindset of the people that do that. And what we must do is continue to fight, continue.
Talk to me about what we talked about earlier. We talked earlier today about, and you mentioned, and it really resonated with me, that a lot of racism is not you're not born with it. You learn it over time.
Taught.
And
there's a lady named
for our
Jane
future.
Elliott.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jane Elliott. She's done a brown eyes, blue eyes experiment. She talked about the fact that racism is learned. There's a guy that's one of my mentees, Jeff. He's out of Illinois. Used to be a skinhead, as I tell you, and he used to drive 80 miles to come to my sessions when I was training in Chicago. And he's a quadriplegic now, but he can drive. He has some use of his hands. And I said, why do you come see me? He said he fell out of a tree and he was paralyzed, and his mother saw me on PBS and had him to look at it. And he heard me say, life is God's gift to us, and how we live our lives is our gift to God. And he realized that he'd been wasting his life feeling sorry for himself because of his accident, because of his paralysis. And he said, when he saw me, he said it stirred something in him that he was going to do something with his life. And so after several months, because we're still friends to this day, and this is over 20 years ago, I said, Jeff, I want to ask you a tough question. He said, I knew it was coming. I said, why did you hate people like me? He said, Les, I've been thinking about that to see what I would say to you. He said, some things are taught, some things are caught. I was in the environment. I didn't know. And no one could have told me, as deep as my hatred of black people was, that I could listen to you or anybody that was black. He said, I really don't know when that happened. He said, but I'm a different person now. And we're all human. But your voice, when I heard your voice, it made a difference for me, man. And I've talked to other people, and since then, I've been able to convince other skinheads to leave that kind of demonic, destructive, toxic mindset and view all people as humans. And so it's going to happen. Change is going to come.
Generation by generation, how we teach our kids.
Yes.